You're in the field house with the Clack Academy.
All about the ball. Yeah. Tonight, we find a way.
And they knock
A-plus content.
Brookwood County
Authentic stories.
to be the 7A champions.
Actionable
Georgia
takeaways.
We're going
2018.
to attack them like they've never been attacked.
This is the Field House Podcast. Coaches, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Field House. I'm Coach Tad. With me, we got the whole crew here. We got Coach Mash. How you doing, Coach Mash?
Great, Tad. Ready to go.
Awesome. We got Coach Clack. Coach Clack, how you doing? I know you just drove in from Parkview. How you doing right now?
Fantastic, Tad. Fantastic.
You should be feeling good coming off. You're now 1-0 in the region. Had a great game on Friday night. I mean, that's got to feel really good to come out and put some points up on the board like you did.
No doubt. Always a little sweeter Saturday mornings when you breaking down film and watching a win, and even better because we're at that point, man. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we had a great speaker come in a while back, Coach BG, former alumni, and his topic was about, hey man, the door's closing. What are you going to do? Are you going to walk through it, or are you going to let it shut in your face? And that's kind of been a little mantra we've carried on because that's it. We're at that point of the season where that door is closing and the opportunity is now. So everything we've worked for is built really for this point. So let's see where we're at.
Well, I'm going to go and jump into it. I want to go ahead and kind of recap the game for our listeners and talk about some of the highlights. So let's dive into it. Parkview travels into Berkmar for the first region game of the season, and the Panthers wasted no time setting the tone. On the opening drive, Greg Hart connects with Brant Williams for a 43-yard touchdown. Panthers were on the board early, 7-0. Next possession, Hart again, this time a quick strike to Jacaden Mobley from 3 yards out. It's 14-0 before Berkmar can settle in. Then Zandon Mullins takes over a 5-yard run, caps another drive, and Parkview is now rolling 21-0 after the first quarter. In the second quarter, Mullins does it again, this time breaking loose for a 26-yard touchdown. Berkmar's answers with a 54-yard strike of their own, but Parkview still in full control, up 27-7. And just before halftime, the Parkview defense stands tall, stops Berkmar on a 4th and 4 to keep the momentum firmly on their side. The score at the halftime is 27-7. In the third quarter, special team explosion, KJ Caldwell takes it off, 96-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And on the very next series, Minor answers with a 37-yard punt return for a touchdown. Panthers are pouring it on now 40-7. Berkmar did manage a short passing touchdown, but Hart and Williams were not done for the night. Greg Hart hits Williams again, this time for a 45-yard touchdown, his second of the night. Fourth quarter, we've got more Parkview dominance. Brandon Parrish powers in for 3 yards out. And on the ensuing possession, Berkmar coughs it up as Elijah Worrell scoops and scores from 35 yards out, capping off a tough defensive effort for the night. Final score, Parkview 61, Berkmar 14. Hart nearly perfect on the night, 11 for 12 passing, 189 yards with 3 touchdowns. Mullins with 99 rushing yards and 2 scores. And Williams with the big play threat of the night, 104 yards receiving on just 3 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns. What I want to do is I really want to kind of break this thing down phase by phase. What's the mindset as you're coming out of the field house, you're walking on the field at 0-0, you know it's a region game, you feel like you have a really good game plan heading into it. What's the thought process right there?
Yeah, maybe this is a little unorthodox or whatever, but I'm not real big on lying to them. When they got eyes, they're going to watch film, and we were better than our opponent, and we should have been better than our opponent. So we talked about that. We faced that. And to me, we talked all week about, well, it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. Parkview is our opponent still. And not that really changes a lot, week in, week out, year in, year out. You truly are your biggest opponent at times. But really where we are in this phase, we've been up and down. That's been our thing. There's lots of things to clean up. There's lots of improvements that we're starting to make. Don't allow an opponent, whether they're really, really good or they're not so good, affect the way you go about your process and get ready to play. So keeping them locked in. Yes, it's a region game, no matter what. Right? That makes this game more important. And the fact that whether this is the best team in the world or someone that we should handle, we've got a lot to prove to ourselves. So just keeping them grounded and locked in and staying, focused truly on this moment and going out and executing our job. So that was really the theme and the pulse that I was monitoring. If I ever felt like I saw maybe the attention slip or, hey, oh, we're going to put up some big points, or we're going to get the young guys in and all this. We got to be focused on the first play of the game, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and we'll let the rest of it sort itself out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, so I was in the team meeting when you were addressing this. I think it was probably Monday or so last week, and it was kind of refreshing to hear, right? Just to take it head on. Look, the opponent is the opponent, and that's not what we're. We have to treat that with the respect that it deserves. And to me, that was just really simple, right? Because I'm kind of batting around in my head. How do you talk to the team about playing a game that we're getting ready to play? And then once you said that, I thought, well, that was really simple. Acknowledge it, move on, and talk about how we need to go and do our thing. And I thought that was really great. Yeah,
even another story from just to hit that point one more time. I remember when we played in the state championship game in 2018. I thought one of the things that was you're going to be in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be different. It should be. Appreciate it. Take a moment for yourself. Look up, look around, and take a beat. Good. Flush it. Let's go. Because it is 120 yards of field. It is 53 and a third, and there's going to be 11 dudes on the other side of you, and we're going to run the plays that we've run for now 15 weeks, and let's go do that. Mm-hmm. And I think addressing, it's the elephant in the room, right? So why not address it? And I think it's refreshing to kids when you speak to them like they're adults, not like they're naive and you're trying to gloss over things. Like I said, man, they're way more savvy than we give them credit for.
Now we've seen already that the Panthers, they can put up some points, right? They can move the ball. Were you surprised at how quick you guys jumped up to a big lead, 21-0?
No, I wasn't shocked. I mean, to me, if you just broke it down, we were very efficient. We came out throwing the ball a good bit, but it wasn't like trying to push the ball down the field and we'll look at what we can do. We're trying to set records in X, Y, and Z. The theme of the week, I said, it's real simple. There should be no 3 and outs on offense. That should be your goal, and there should be no turnovers. All right, that's what we should focus on because that's where we're lacking. We should get to neutral or better on special teams. Quit making the big gaffes and mistakes that have plagued us. On defense, we need to get lined up in a hurry, knowing our assignment, and being sound tacklers. If we do those things, this game will take care of itself. And it was awesome to see those things play out in real time. And then the other piece, there's cliches are cliches for a reason. We say all the time, games are never as bad as you thought they were when you go back and watch, and never as good as you thought they were when you go back and watch. Well, I'll be honest, there were lots of things about that game going back and watch that I didn't see in real time that got me excited. And I was really, really proud of that. And I think it really stems from the guys were locked in. They had something to prove to themselves. And we're still in this big building phase. And every week is an opportunity to see, are we taking that next step? Are we taking at least another step? But then the effort. It's really easy to get disengaged in those type of games. Man, I showed us celebrating with one another, running off the field after that first touchdown, after that first turnover. And I was like, guys, this is it. Nobody standing over somebody else, showing them. It was genuine excitement of those guys being excited. Hey, man, we're getting there. We're getting closer. Getting excited for guys like Brant, who had a big game, who kind of hadn't been able to get off, get going so much in the first couple games. Greg being super efficient. Eyes downfield, take the check down. Eyes downfield, get the ball out quick. Let the offense operate. You're the general out there. Distribute that ball to your playmakers. It ain't about, you, the quarterback, necessarily. It's about this offense working and moving. And when you do those things and you're the better team and you're winning those matchups, you get stops and you get scores.
I think it was at that Monday meeting, right after we had talked about the opponent. And that's, Coach, that's when you laid out, here's what the keys to victory are. Offense, no 3 and outs, no turnovers. Defense, perfect alignment assignment. So, while we acknowledge the opponent we're playing, just immediately Coach coming on top of that and saying, but this is what we're going to measure. This is what we're going to measure against. And this is our goal. So it gives us a goal the entire week. And I heard it all week. No 3 and outs, no turnovers, perfect alignment assignment all week. And they were really locked in on that goal.
And I didn't think about it in time, but now that we're saying it, you give them something to anchor to. So it's really easy to say, don't do X, don't do Y, don't overlook opponent. Well, the brain doesn't hear negative. Don't think about a white elephant. What'd you just think about, right? So you got to replace that with something to anchor into. And I thought those are things that, that means no 3 and out means, hey, keep picking up first downs. It wasn't, hey, we got to score X amount of points, or hey, don't overlook, don't do this. It was do this. These are the things that we've been working to. These are the things that we've been struggling with. We've been either explosive or we've been stuck in a situation where we couldn't find rhythm, and then we get in these low percentage games and we're 3-and-outing. I mean, we had 5 3-and-outs against Collins Hill. That won't get it done. That won't get it done against good teams, and that cripples the defense. So, and then we constantly putting ourselves in bad field position. So again, we're going to kick the ball and cover, right? We're going to punt the ball efficiently if we punt and make sure we cover. We're going to field the ball on return and get ourselves in better field position so that we can play this game with both hands instead of one time behind our back.
And we're going to talk about special teams here in just a little bit, but I want to continue to go through the different phases of the game. So you come out, you're executing as you feel that you prepared to do and what you're asking your team to do. What's the mindset now as you're at halftime and you're heading into a game, which, the second half pretty much looks like you guys are in control of the game. How are you keeping the kids focused? What's the mindset going into the second half?
Yeah, well, again, it's kind of keeping that pulse of the team. Jump out 21-0, right? And then that second half of that second quarter, I started seeing a little silliness. I started, guys requesting the ball, guys, having the ideas about, oh, we could do this, we could do that, And I started feeling that hyper focus start to fray a little. So it's 27-7. We're getting the ball back. And so to me, it was time to reset, and make sure that we were on the same page. And we're on their throat, guys. We got to finish now. No, we don't want to mess around with this. We don't, got to give them a shot back in. All of a sudden, if you enter a game without focus and then you try to snap back on, or you had focus beginning and then you lost it, these things don't flip on and off like a light switch, right? Generally, it's an overreaction. Now I start gripping too tight. And the other worst thing, other than, the performance. And we talk about this all the time too, Coach. When do injuries happen, right? Injuries happen when tempos don't match, right? That to me is the number one. Tempos don't match, or you have people who are not physically capable of doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the bodies are flying around and this and that. When tempos don't match, it looks like this. I'm not finishing the play. I'm standing around the pile, and here comes somebody into the back of me, right? Tempos don't match. I pull up early, and now this guy's going full speed, and boom, I'm getting drilled. Guys are getting frustrated on the other side. Maybe they're going to take aim. You need to be high alert. We play this game until it's finished. And I felt us starting to drift a little bit. And I don't think anybody thought I was happy at halftime. And it wasn't that I was overly angry, and it wasn't a fire and brimstone talk, but it was, we are not finished, and don't dare think that we are. You are in this game until we pull you out of this game. And the goal at that point, whether I said it or not, is finish it so that we can pull you out and get the other guys in. But until then, I need everything you got. And and we got the ball, kickoff return, and we're able to house that thing and let me know message was received, and 3-and-out and all that kind of good stuff. So,
and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about in that second half, what was the game plan in the second half to get more guys involved? Maybe that don't necessarily get a chance to touch the ball. I mean, we see Jaleel Parham wasn't really a big part of the receiving game, but yet we see Brant Williams has a huge game, 104 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I mean, there's two sides of that coin, however you want to say it. It's, yes, great opportunity to get guys involved and touches and playing time, but also we know what's ahead of us. We're going to play 6 straight weeks, and we're coming up on the toughest stretch. Let's get out of this thing. Let the guys that are playing, so many snaps, both sides of the ball, special teams, once we have this game firmly in control, let's get them off field. And I felt, again, going back, had we finished the first half a little better, we get those guys out of the game a little sooner. And there was a lot of banter on the headset about when we get this guy out. And, it's a real sticky situation. I remember early on, I believe it was the first win of my career. No, that's not true. It was down the road a little bit, but I've pulled guys too early once. And it was like, oh crap, that team wasn't done. And we had to put them back in. And I've been in situations where we had guys pulled, and then a situation come up where they're trying to put it up. I never, ever want to put a guy back in once we told him to take his helmet off. Because again, it's back to that tempo's matching. It's back to, it takes a lot to rev that engine up. It's a lot of energy, and there's a lot of adrenaline that gets expended. And it's that deep exhale when you come off. It don't just flip back on. And so, looking at the near and the far is, let's take care of business. What a great opportunity, yes, to get guys in, Would love that. Love the experience. Love the opportunity for them to get out on Friday night and share in all this hard work. But also, let's don't play around and get these guys that got a big workload coming up in the next 3 weeks off the field.
Protect the team.
Talk to me a little bit then about the mindset as you're heading into the fourth quarter, into the game. What's the thought process there? Because the team didn't quit. We're still scoring. You get another big special teams play with a block punt that's returned for a touchdown. You kind of tell me what's going on through your the mind there, and as you start to prepare for the next week.
Well, no, you don't start to prepare for the next week. You got guys out there playing, and it's a big point to me. You starters who these guys service largely all week, and you've been getting the lion's share of the reps. You need to be as invested in their success as they are in yours. And what message does that send, if we're out, and we're on the benches or we're talking in the stands? They feel that. And again, something I was so proud of is, and I've celebrated the effort just continued to be great. And those guys were staying engaged with the younger guys who were in and some of the down the line guys. And I think you saw that, and they went out and they were able to compete, and it was meaningful and it was awesome. And those guys are, going to have either great memories from that, or they're going to have great experience from that to carry them forward throughout this year and into the next year. And that's building a program. That's pulling those guys up along with you and showing that they matter to you, because they are an integral part of this team. We can't do it without them. So now is their opportunity. Don't diminish it. Celebrate it. Be there with them. Coach them up. Celebrate. Pat them on the butt. And so I felt like that energy on our sideline stayed, and it definitely stayed with our coaches. They were still coaching hard. We got guys on the field that are wearing Parkview colors. We need to be coaching them as hard as we would as if it were the opening kickoff. They deserve that.
Let's talk. I want to talk something that we've spent a lot of time here talking about this. I think maybe one of your favorite topics, but let's talk about your special teams, because special teams showed up. They showed up and showed out on Friday night, and that was awesome to see. We had a 96-yard kickoff return by Caldwell to start the second half. We get a punt block and a return for 35 yards for a touchdown. What was the mindset heading to this game around special teams, and how did you get the guys focused and ready to go this week?
Well, each week we've had different phases show up that we've had to go back and readdress. 2 games ago or 3 games ago now, it was a kick coverage and the return game errors there. Then the next week it was punt block, things like that. So we spent a lot of time kind of working and like Matt said, hey, at least let's get it back to neutral. I want to be aggressive on spit. I want it to be an X factor, because there's normally somewhere in that game, there's a weak point. There's a point to apply pressure. And I want to be able to do that. But at minimum, it's got to be a net neutral. And so we put a lot of work into our kick coverage. That was probably the thing that I was most pleased about. We have a metric in which I measure our special teams. It's kind of, probably too deep, too dense to get into all of it with the podcast, but anybody familiar with the baseball WAR, wins against replacement metric, is built like that. It's our special teams measured against their special teams, and who contributed and the more points to their team, right, versus the other. We had been finishing -10, -11, meaning their special teams were contributing that much more than ours. And a lot of that is calculated through hidden yardage. So, for example, if an average kickoff should start on the 25, if it starts on the 35, if they return it to the 30, that's minus 10 yards in our column. If we tackle them on the 15, that's plus 10 yards.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up amassing over 140 total yards of hidden yards. 140 yards.
That's huge.
I mean, one of the biggest metrics that anybody measures success in football, number 1 is turnovers. Number 2, by a lot of people, like Bill Walsh, a lot of people, is explosive plays versus the other. Well, an explosive play is 20 yards. Well, how many explosive plays is 140? It's 7. That is 7 explosive plays of field position that doesn't necessarily show up in a stat column. And that's versus the other team, not just 140 to their 110. It's 140 total over them. Plus, we had 2 touchdowns. All right. We put in a punt return scheme that Coach Goodwell, very appreciative of his persistence in it. That showed up big. I mean, we were returning that thing for 15-10, 15-20, and then we broke one. Kick return. We had a big one. So it was great to see the attention to detail, the effort that was being demanded week in and week out to finally show. And I think that's going to build. Now people are excited about it. They want to do it again. The kick coverage was fantastic all night. So many individual efforts being collectively to get that ball on the ground and corral it. So yeah, super, super proud about that. But we had one phase show up that wasn't great. We had 2 extra points that were blocked. So don't you know, we're back at work at that this week. So we got to get them all right. And hopefully, hey, no better time than this week to have it all come together against the best team that we've seen all year. So we're excited for it.
And don't forget the Ted, you asked the question, how did you lock back in on special teams, or how did you take that jump? And I think coach is the perfect embodiment of this. What's the second pillar of bet? Effort. And just putting the effort into it and putting the time into it and making space to work on those things. And then it's not just effort, right? It's relentless effort, which means this week we got to do just as much or more with that effort on special teams. And I think that's what popped in my head. When you asked that question, it was, well, it's effort, both the staff side, the player side, everybody coming together, understanding this is important. So we're going to put effort into it.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit, and I think you might have answered it, because one of the interesting things, and I know that you're the first one to say, hey, the stat sheet doesn't necessarily tell the story of the game, but I did think it was an interesting stat line. When you look at a score 61-14, you think you're going to see a lopsided yards gained for offense compared to the other team. And yet we were actually, Parkview was actually outgained 363 yards to 349 by Berkmar. Do you think that's just a result of shorter field position, or is it because there's still more work to be done on the defensive side of the ball?
That's the hidden yardage, right?
No, I think you had it right. Yeah. We'll go back to West Forsyth. One reason we had so many yards is because we were putting ourselves deep in territory. We were starting our defense in a bad position, and so the field would get flipped. So we were always coming out of the shadow of our own end zone. Well, that's good if you're back when I was playing Madden and NCAA. I used to take that kickoff return back so I get my stats up, and so again, stats are for losers. They really are. Data is where it's driven. So you got to understand what you're looking at there. You tell me somebody who loses a ball game and then boast about how many yards they got. Well, I don't care. We lost, right? Mm-hmm. Show me a 61-14 game and somebody, well, your defense well, you don't know the story, right? There's so many different things that go into that. Berkmar made a few plays coming from deep in their own territory, but you know what? They got to the 50 and they got no more. We had a lot of young guys in for the entire second half who gave up some yardage, but they got them down on the ground. So I was very proud of that. While we played much better defense alignment assignment, we still missed some big tackles, so we're back in the lab making sure, hey, we're able to now, after North Paulding, you can't see my hands totally, but the focus was this big. There was so much to work on. That focus has gradually gotten smaller and smaller. And I tell you, it's really, really cool. I mean, today, for example, in practice, watching Bryce Carter light up because he's finally starting to realize, okay, now that I've removed so much of the clutter of all the things, now I'm focusing in on exactly how to set that edge and why keeping my outside arm is free, because now I can get outside and make a play when the ball redirects for a loss versus it ripping 20 yards downfield and everybody screaming at me, set the edge. And so you open up that bandwidth in their mind for them to focus, aim small, miss small kind of mentality, right? You can tell somebody to focus on the inside hip and run through it, but if they're thinking about 17 other things that they're still trying to figure out, guess what they don't think about when it's time to focus on the inside hip? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. I see it, and is this the week that it all comes together? We won't know until we play, but I can tell you we're getting closer. Every week we're getting closer to maximizing what this team can do. And it gets me excited, and that's why the joy is in the process. As much as it's frustrating and it's, it wear you out. And that's why I got these bags under my eyes right now. When it comes to fruition, it could be a simple Tuesday practice and seeing a kid like, holy smokes, I get it now. And now that kid is really going to be able to unleash his athleticism and his God-given talent because he understands the mission.
And isn't ultimately that's why we coach, for that feeling right there.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about some self-inflicted mistakes over the past couple of weeks, but this week, Parkview, 0 turnovers, Berkmar, 2 turnovers. However, we still had some penalties, 9 penalties for 58 yards. How would you currently right now rate your team's ability to control what they can control?
Again, getting better. Still, there's a couple of times, a false start here or, an offside. I don't consider those aggressive. Those are still foolish penalties, but they're not egregious penalties. Egregious penalties is standing over someone. Egregious penalties is, that ego-driven things that we were kind of doing a little bit early, or maybe, to even soften that a little bit, frustration kind of things. A guy jumps off sides on defense because he's trying to go make a play. Now, he's got to control that because it is within his control. We're not misaligning on offense and a guy getting called because we had a covered receiver, things like that. So as I look back on those 9, and again, I don't have it in front of me, I would like to see, I bet you half of those were aggressive penalties, a PI that could have gone either way, something to that nature. So we're not putting the ball on the carpet at all last week. No big gaffes of just somebody not being where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I think we are improving on that, but we're getting close in that regard to playing clean enough to win ball games, big ball games. Now it's about going out and we were just talking about in the last piece of that we've minimized the mistakes. Now let's really focus in on how to. We're getting to where we're supposed to be. Now let's get better at doing what we should do when we get there, right? And then that's where you really see that big leap.
Last thing on this game before we start looking ahead, who do you have up there as your unsung hero for the game?
Unsung hero for the game. I got two of them. They're both special teams related. Imagine that. But it's not just because it's special teams. It's because it's the embodiment of what they're doing. Neither one of these guys that I'm going to say came into the season saying, "Oh, I want to have my role solely on special teams." All right. But they keep working and they're finding a way to contribute. And Chris Carrasco last week in a service period where it wasn't even what we were working on. We were working on the return unit and he was working the coverage and he did it perfectly 3 times in a row, made perfect. I said, that guy just earned him a spot on starting kickoff. And then he turns around and he does it the other way. He also earned him a spot on return. That's right. And Dante Burnett is he's a senior starting on every single special team. And he shows up on every unit and does and strains. I showed multiple times on those punt returns where his job was literally to attack the guy on the line of scrimmage and don't let him get off the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And it's that type of strain for a play that nobody else will see other than his coaches, but it results in a touchdown. And I just love celebrating those things because they need to be celebrated. Not that they're doing it necessarily because they're not getting in the StatCom. They're not going to get the write-ups in the paper. They're not going to get the highlights on the big screen. Those are highlights to me, right? Because they are embodying what we're trying to build in this culture. It's not about me. It's about the team in any way that I can contribute. And when they buy into it, they learn their role, they learn their assignment, and they give maximum effort, and they're willing to overcome when they have some adversity because, again, these are guys who aren't starting in other spots, right? They're finding these roles and they're working their tails off. So those two guys, to me, really, really were unsung heroes of the week.
2 things there. One, just demonstrating that to the rest of the team, that we saw a young man who put everything he had into these service periods as the service team for our kick return team. And good things happen when you do that. And then the second thing is, we teach players how to do something, and then we expect that they trust that that's the right thing. So what we saw last week was putting all that work into it and saw some of it show up on Friday night. Now those players might be thinking, Coach is right. I trust what he's telling me, that if I do my job, the guy next to me is going to do his, and the guy on the other side of me is going to do his. I trust that we're going to make this play together. And I thought, that's what stood out to me coming out of that is that trust and demonstrating to the team, if you do what we ask, good things are going to happen to you.
That's why I love asking that question because, a lot of times those are the things, like you said, they don't show up on the stat sheet. It's not something that everybody in the stands is going to necessarily see, but that effort, coach is watching, he's going to know, and the impact the team's going to feel. So I want to go ahead and start looking ahead here, because, being in the division that you're in, or in the region that you're in, 6A, fortunately, you've got a lot of cake puff teams. And so the next 3 weeks are pretty easy for you guys, right? Probably not thinking too. No, you've got a really, really tough stretch coming up here, right? We've got North Gwinnett, we've got Brookwood, we've got Norcross. Kind of two-part question. How are you preparing the team for this really tough stretch of the schedule? And what's the message if there's a stumble along the way and, the team maybe feel like some of their goals are no longer in reach?
Well, how we're preparing, this is the culmination of everything we've done. We have worked on our practice plan. We have worked on our schemes. We have worked on correcting and moving pieces around, and trying to lighten the load for some of the guys in the first 3 weeks of the year who just had so much on it. And now we're starting to see these other guys step up and take some of that off. Understanding what's in front of us. I mean, this is who we're chasing. North Gwinnett is the region champs. And right now they're the best team in our region. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, if you just turn on the film and you watch them play, that is the type of team we're chasing to be, right? And then pass as quickly as possible. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity. I would say better football team than Collins Hill. Maybe Collins Hill has a few more, banner stars on it, and you just watch the tape passively. You're like, oh, whoa, those guys. No. You watch this tape clip. You watch it closely. You're going to see a better football team. And so understanding that, again, don't run from it. Just like last week, didn't hide the fact that we were better than them. Not going to run from this week. Hey, theme of this week is courage, right? I would assume there is doubt in some of your minds. I would assume there's going to be players that line up against other players and units that watch other units. And you're like, man, how are we going to stop right there? All we can do is take our shots, right? Can we prepare the best possible way that we can prepare this week and then go out and play with maximum effort, right? Bet to the fullest. If we do those, I'll put my head on the pillow right now and tell you I will sleep like a baby, because I know that's success to me. Okay. John Wooden, one of the greatest coaches of all times, articulated it best. Success is knowing that you prepared as well as you could and gave as much effort as you could when you competed. Mm-hmm. And we break that down as courage, right? The willingness to face fear, right? The willingness to face fear and act anyways. It's not the absence of fear. It is action in the face of fear. All right. And so that's what we're talking about this week, and not putting them on some pedestal. They're not trying to do that, but also recognizing, hey, that's what this week needs to be about. If there's bumps in the road, we're going to handle it like we've always handled it, right? Hey, back to the lab, right? We're getting better. There's no doubt about it. I believe we are in a position to go toe-to-toe with these type of teams. And all we got to do is drag them down into our game, mm-hmm. and look up in the fourth quarter and see, right? Hey, it's within striking distance, right? And that's the message. And if it goes one way or if it goes another way, the message won't change. It's back to it, because we're going to have another big one coming right after it, and another big one coming right after it, and another one right after that. So, and nothing will be lost. Simply a game, because the game never, the goals never change. We want to play as many games as possible. We want to be playing our best ball when ball matters most. All of that will still be right in front of us, right in front of us. And that's why I don't like those tangible goals of you got to beat this team, or we got to win this minute. No, we got to get to the tournament, man. Mm-hmm. We got to get to the tournament. That means there's another game in front of us.
It's going to take 4 quarters of ball to get it done.
That's what we're ready for.
Last thing here, I want to kind of recap and close up here. So obviously we are 4 games into the season. We're 2-2, 1-0 in the region. We've seen some dominant games. We've seen some explosive plays. We've seen special teams struggle at times, but we've also seen the special teams, on fire. We've seen an ability to kind of focus in on the areas where maybe we have fallen short and turn that around into successes the next week. If you could, give me one word that you would sum up this team and where they are right now in the journey of this season.
Growth. I mean, I've seen it every single week, and what does growth mean? Does that mean you've arrived or not? It doesn't mean any of that, right? Again, we won't know until the whole thing plays out. But since February, I've seen growth every single week. Some weeks, big steps. Some weeks, 2 steps back, 1 step back. Some weeks, a lot of little small steps. But I believe as long as we keep growing and we stay together, right, and we don't let one result. Inky Johnson has a phrase I love. Can you stay committed to the process without being emotionally tied to the result? meaning there is a process that I believe in and I think is proven, and then in some magical thing that I've studied and taken it from others, right? It's nothing that I've created. It's pretty timeless truths. But you don't always just get the result because you did something right once or twice or 3 times, 4 times. You do it. You do it until you get those results you're looking for. And then there's going to be times when you do everything right and it doesn't go your way, and then you got to be just as committed to keep going back. And right now, this team has done that every single time. Every single time I've had to call them out. I've had to redirect them. They have responded every time. So no matter good or bad, there is going to be growth in this game, and there's going to be another growth moment that's going to have to happen on Sunday and Monday of the next week. Because either it went the way we wanted it to, awesome. Now what? Now what? Because we ain't there, I promise you. It didn't go the way we wanted to. Okay, now what? Are you going to show back up like you have every single time? That's what I expect. So I fully expect there to be growth that continues, and I have seen nothing but growth for the 9 months that I've been with these young men and these coaches.
I love it. And that's why I love asking you those questions, because I always get a very poignant answer. And so with that, I think we'll leave it there. Guys, good luck this week. Super excited about Friday night. Can't wait to see all the preparation that you guys have put into it. I know it's going to be a tough game, but I know that you guys are going to be ready for it. Appreciate your guys' time tonight. Coaches, we'll see you guys out in the field. Have a great one.
Appreciate it.
Go Panthers.